And I'll officially say good morning. Thanks everyone for being here. So today we are going to be painting this spring wreath with roses. So like BJ was just talking about, but we're going to be using brush strokes to create all of these shapes. So the only thing we're going to be drawing is the actual circle. If I can do that with my finger the right way, circle. Lightly with a pencil at the beginning, and then everything is going to be done with our brush. All right, so I'm going to go over the supplies real quick. We've got one piece of watercolor paper. Now I'm using 8x10, but of course you're welcome to use any size you'd like. It can be adapted to any size. And I have a drawing compass, but to be honest, I didn't use that in this example for the circle. I used the lid from my cottage cheese container. I did that on purpose, just in case, someone didn't have one of these. These are really handy. So it's basically a 4.5-inch circle, but it could be 4 or 5 inches. So we're just going to be using something to draw a circle. So we've got our number 2 pencil, kneaded eraser. We're just going to be erasing some spaces for our roses. I've got my little spray bottle. I am still using this Princeton Velvet Touch number 8 round. Like I said before, this is really similar to a number 6 size. So I usually paint with a number 6. I'm just sort of trying out this brush. So number 6 or number 8 brush is going to work really well. And then as far as the roses go, I used my Cool Red and then the Sap Green, but feel free to use any colors you'd like for these roses. Cinnamon was telling me she's going to try purple and like a lime green. And I think today when I do the demonstration, I'm going to add a little bit of yellow into these roses as we go. So they'll be kind of like that orange, pink and orange, red and orange, or yellow or peach type roses. But if you want to do like, a warmer shade of red or any other color, you can even do, yellow, whatever you feel like, feel free to do that. So, and then I have my paper towel here under my palette and my water container, which I'm just going to set aside for now, and painter's tape. So painter's tape would be helpful. I'm going to stretch my paper to my workspace today, just because this is going to be quite a bit of paint on the paper, but if, I'll leave it up to you. It's optional. You can always flatten the paper out later if you want to be able to turn it or anything. You might not want to tape it down. Any questions about the supplies? First thing we're going to do is tape down our paper. If you have artist tape, you could use that. I use painter's tape. This is from the dollar store. Once you have that taped down, then you can draw your circle. So you can either do the drawing compass, and if you want like a 4.5-inch circle, I'm going to put mine I'm going to try to get it sort of in the middle. And we don't need anything dark here. I'm going to make mine darker just so you can see it, and going lighter just so you don't have a pencil line that's hard to erase later. talk about this painting a little bit. So once you get your circle, we're just going to erase some areas. So we're just going to have a little bit of the circle left, kind of. So it's just a placeholder for our wreath and our roses. I did obviously like 1 here, 2 here, and 3 here. I think for the class today, I'm going to make these sort of all in a row, 3 in a row, maybe 1 bigger one in the middle and 2 smaller on the side. Going to go ahead and erase is where I kind of want my roses to be. I'm going to put some over here and then down here on the bottom. And the process we're going to go through is we're going to paint our roses first, sort of get those spaced out the way we want them to be. And then we'll go back and we'll paint in some leaves. I've got some little buds here. And then the last thing we'll do is paint in these stems. All right. Okay, so I'm going to prepare some of my red. Now I'm going to make kind of a watery puddle here because I kind of want to start out lighter and then we can add, before the rose dries, we can add darker pigment into the wet rose and let it bleed out into the rest of the petals. I'm also going to prepare some yellow right now. So we're going to start up here with our first rose. Upper right hand corner, we'll work our way down. Okay, I'm going to start up here with this rose. Now you can make these as big or small as you want. I'm going to keep this one sort of medium sized. And I didn't get super detailed with these roses like if, you know, for those of you who have done the roses with me in other classes, these are a little bit looser. So they're just a little bit more kind of quick and loose and not quite as defined. But I'm going to go through the same process that we've gone through before to make the rose. And this is just the way I do it. So feel free to, you know, if you want to do it a different way, really, honestly, it's like as long as you have brush strokes that kind of overlap and go around in a circle, it's going to look like a rose. It just is. Start with a C. And like I said before, don't overthink this. This is really just the middle of the rose. So I have a C. And like BJ was describing before, I like to sort of start out with light pressure, push down on my brush to get more pressure, brush stroke, and then let up. So I just, for this second one, I sort of did 2 strokes to make that C. And I'm just going, I blotted my brush just now, and I'm going to pick up some of that pigment because I have a puddle there. I don't want a puddle. So I've got a C, and then I've got a backwards C, right, starting in the middle of the first C. And then I'm going to add another petal. So I'm just going to start over here. So I'm going to use sort of the tip of my brush here, and then I'm going to push down and come around the side here, and I'm going to let up with less pressure. So I started with just the tip of my brush. I pushed down to get this thicker brush stroke, and then I just released. I'm going to do the same thing up here. So I'm going to start with just the tip of my brush. I'm going to push down as I come around here. And I'm just going to use the tip of my brush to make that other side. And don't worry if it takes you 2 or 3 strokes to get that petal. So now I'm going to sort of come around here. I'm doing the same thing. So I started with light pressure, just the tip of my brush. I pushed down to get that thicker area, and then I lightened up on the pressure. And now I'm going to do 3 petals sort of overlapping each other. And I'm just going to keep going around here. And as you get like more and more to the outside of the rose, I sometimes like to let the edges be sort of uneven on these petals, just so that they don't look too perfect. But I'm just going to keep sort of going around. I'm pushing down, and then I'm letting up on the pressure. I'm just going to put another one up here. And it's kind of getting lighter and lighter as I go around, which is kind of what I want. And when you get to this point, you can kind of start deciding like how big do you want your rose to be. You can always, just to sort of make it a little rounder, mine's a little bit lopsided, add a little tiny petal on the side where it needs to be rounder. And then before it dries, I'm going to just get a little bit darker red and touch that inside here. Mine's dried, it always dries pretty fast in here, so it's kind of already dry, but that's okay. And then we want some yellow. I'm just going to touch some yellow in some of the areas that are still wet here. If they're already dry, you can just glaze the yellow over it too. I was thinking this would be great for, you know, I've seen people write things in the middle. Like you could write a little quote or message or word. I'm not good at brush lettering, but if you are, you could do that, or calligraphy or something, or use a template, which is probably what I would do. And of course, if you get too close to your line, you can erase a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to move on to next one. I'm going to mix a little bit more paint here. And I'm going to do a smaller rose up here. and a bigger one down here. So I'm just going to start over here with the same process with the C, then the backwards C. And I'm just going to start adding petals. So this one I'm going to make the middle just a little bit more towards the top. So it kind of looks like we're looking at it from the side just a little bit. And again, I'm going back in here with some darker red right in the middle to give it some depth. Then I'm going to wash my brush and pick up some of this yellow and add that. Just maybe on the sort of the inside of these petals a little bit. Just erasing a little bit more of my line there. I got a little bit close on this one. And we can cover up, you know, if you can't get those lines completely erased. Mine's a little bit darker than I would usually do, just so you can see it, but we can cover up some of these if you have any remaining pencil lines when we do the leaves and the stems. So I'm going to go ahead and put another rose over here. And you know, the petals can, I try to leave some white space, but the petals can touch in some areas if you want them to, of course. Then I'm just adding some little petals. I sort of like to look at my rose when it gets to a certain size to figure out how big I want it to be, and also if it's still round. And if not, you can add these little side petals to sort of balance it out. A little bit of yellow here. This down here. So I'm going to make a bigger one, like sort of in the middle, and maybe two smaller ones on the side here. And like I said, you all just, you know, make them however feels good for your painting. This middle one's going to be kind of bigger. It's kind of nice to do a class that doesn't involve any drawing. I think I was telling Jen last time, it's not like this is the first time I've done this. So, you know, I've had to practice all of these too. Start adding some leaves here. I'm going to start at the top and I'm going to just start adding them sort of around the roses where just sort of like start to balance out the composition here. So I'm going to add some up here. So I'm going to use just brush strokes to make these leaves. And again, it's really similar to the petals where I'm starting with light pressure and sort of the tip of my brush, and then I'm pushing down. I'm going to do 1/2 of the leaf at a time. So I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to make the second half of that leaf. So you can leave a little white vein in the middle of the leaf if you want, or you can connect it. I might just draw a little stem here, the tip of my brush, and then make another leaf here. Come down here, the little stem, and now I'm pushing down, and then I'm releasing the pressure. So there's 1/2, and then I'm going to start here and just paint the other side of that leaf. So that's my process. You might do it differently. You don't feel like you have to do it all in one brush stroke. You could start at the top of the leaf like this, push down, and then sort of make the stem. And then if you wanted to add a little bud, you could use the tip of your brush to make a stem. And then pick up some of your, I'm going to wash my brush here, some of your red and make a little bud. I'm just going to let that bleed into that stem. I'll do the same thing in the bottom. So again, I'm just making a little stem. If you want the leaves to be closer to the rose, then of course you don't need to make the stem. You can just make the leaf there. I put another bud right there underneath. Now you could add a little bit of yellow to these leaves. I'm just going to glaze a little bit of yellow on there. Sort of just look as I'm going, where do I need to sort of balance things out, make things a little bit rounder. I'm going to start on the other side over here. I'm going to add a couple of little buds over here. And then connect them with some little stems. Add some more leaves. It's also nice. You can come back in and just touch a little bit of darker green right at the base of those stems just to make it, give it a little more depth. I think this particular painting lends itself to either wet and wet, or glazing is also nice if it's already dry. Add a couple more leaves over here. And then I'm going to move down here. Add some little buds down here. And again, I'm just using the pressure of my brush for those thicker lines. And add a few more leaves over here. My art professor in college always advised us to turn our painting upside down to see if it was balanced. It's a little bit hard with our setup right here, unless you have a board you can easily pick up. So you can see right away when it's upside down whether it's balanced or not. I feel like this kind of needs more leaves up here. So I'm just gonna erase the rest of these pencil lines. I can still kind of see them back there. And then I just sort of alternated with green and red here, overlapping 2 red lines and 2 green lines. Just sort of going to planning my tack here. I'm just using sort of the tip of my brush here. I'm going to do some lines that sort of overlap each other, maybe a little bit darker. And I'm going to go around, I'm going to do the green ones first. And so just sort of starting and stopping at different places. Here with my little bit of red. I don't want it too dark. And then just sort of kind of balancing that out. At this point, I would just check it, you know, to see, does it look balanced? Do I need to add anything else? I think I probably got a little bit. This one's a little big when I look at it on the screen. You know, you could add, I could add a little bit of a,
Sure.
or,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
you know what I mean? Just like balance it out a little bit. Like maybe one there. I don't know if it really needs it. It doesn't have to be perfectly balanced, obviously, but you know, if there's something that's bothering your eye, you can always add a little bit here and there without overdoing it. Let me say that. All right. Have a great rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you.